So in A4, we're going to talk about the special cases that come up when you're multiplying polynomials. And in this case, this page in particular, we are, what is it called? A what nomial? And we have two?
Binomial.
Binomial, because like a bicycle with two wheels, it has two terms. So we're going to take this binomial, and we're going to, in our brains, and I'm not going to write it because this is not going to be correct. In our brains, we want to just go, this is x squared plus 4. Done. Move on to the next one. I have students that get all the way to pre-calculus and really want that to be the truth, and it's so sad when I have to mark them wrong because they forget it's not. There is a middle term that happens here. When we're squaring an item, we're multiplying it by itself. So this is x plus 2 times x plus 2. And you guys were just doing a practice with this very situation. I'm going to FOIL it out. So x times x gives us x squared. X times 2 gives us 2x. 2 times x gives us 2x. And 2 times 2 gives us 4. So the reason this isn't x squared plus 4 is because of these middle terms that happen. So the real answer is x squared plus 4x plus 4. The scenario that gives you x squared minus 4 is this one. So I'm going from above to down below. X plus 2 times x minus 2. The first term is still x squared. X times negative 2 is negative 2x. 2 times x is 2x. And 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. When I have one that's positive and its identical buddy that's negative, the middle guys cancel out. So I'm just left with, so this is negative 2x plus 2x is 0x. So I'm just left with the x squared minus 4. So this is a special case. Identical items, except one's positive and one's negative. Okay, let's go take a look at this x minus 5. When I have a squared, it means each item itself multiplied by itself. Item multiplied by itself. When I FOIL this out, actually let's go box method just for funs. Just so you guys can see both ways. X times x is x squared. X times negative 5 is negative 5x. X times negative 5 is negative 5x. And negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. So this guy is x squared. I'm going to combine together my negative 5x and negative 5x. And it gives negative 10x. Plus the 25. So it is not x squared plus 25. It is x squared minus 10x plus 25. Yeah, John?
Did you get the 25?
Yeah, two negatives make a positive. So that's why it's positive. Good question. Okay. So here we're going to see if this case is similar to the one with the 2's, I should get x squared minus 25. But let's go ahead and FOIL out and see. X squared minus 5x because it's negative 5 plus 5x because it's positive 5 times positive x minus 25 because it's positive 5 times negative 5. This case, our plus 5x, plus 5x and our minus 5x cancel out, and this is equal to x squared minus 20. So do you want the rule, the quick and easy rule for dealing with these situations? Because I'll give it to you. You can always just FOIL it out. If you can't remember the rule, you can just FOIL it out. But for my advanced students, let me give you the rule. So when you have a squared, binomial, like we had we'll go x minus 3 squared. You're going to take your first term and square it. So we're going to take x and square it. It works for any first term. You're going to take your second term and double it. What is 3 times 2? 6. So negative 3 times 2 is, and then I'm going to put an x on it. And then you're going to take your last term and square it. What is negative 3 times negative 3? So when you have a squared binomial, square your first term, take your second term and double it, and then your third term, you take your second term and square it. So it goes double and then square. When you have a binomial that is opposites, so binomial with opposites, and by the way, this is just so that my high-level kids, if this scratches your itch, I always like the little quick and easy rule. But no matter what, if you go back to FOILing it out, that is also fine. So a binomial with opposites, so x plus 7 and x minus 7. You take your first term and square it. So your first term, thank you, squared. And then you take your second term and square it. And it always has a minus in between, bless you. And it always has a minus in between. So x plus 7 times x minus 7 is going to be x squared minus 7, 49. All right, let's check our answers. If we follow the rule, by the way, you can FOIL this out if you want, or use the box method, or whatever method you prefer. But if you follow the rule, you take your first term and square it. You double your second term. What's 4 times 2? 8. Tag an x on it. And then you take your last term and square it. What's 4 times 4? Okay, and just so that you don't think I'm messing with you, I used FOIL last time, so I'll use the box. X and 4, x and 4. This is x squared, 4x, 4x, and 16. So here's where my x squared comes from. I have 2 4x's, so together they make 8. And then 4 times 4 is 16. All right, let's see if we can tackle that when we have a negative sign. So we take our first term and we square it. Take our second term, which is negative 1, and double it. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Got to keep the negative sign with it. Negative 1 times negative 1, so negative 1 squared is positive 1. Do you guys believe me, or do you want to see the FOIL? Okay. What about Rudy, though? He can't even keep his head off the desk. You believe me? Okay. So let's do this together. Let's see if we can get this without having to FOIL it out. I'm going to FOIL this one out anyway, but let's see if we can use our rules to find it without FOILing. What is 2x squared? So that would be 2x times 2x. What's 2 times 2? 4, and x times x is x squared. And then we have 3 here. We're going to, in fact, multiply when we have a coefficient. So we got 2. When we FOIL it out, we end up multiplying those two things together twice. So we're going to multiply 2x times 3x times 3, and then double it. So when you have a coefficient, you're not only just doubling it, you're multiplying the first and the last together, and then doubling it. So this would be 6x times 2 is 12x. Then we take our last guy and we square him. 3 times 3 is? 9. Okay, so let's go ahead and FOIL this guy out so we can see that I'm not, got nothing up my sleeves, I'm not messing with your mind. 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times 3 is 6x. 3 times 2x is also 6x. And 3 times 3 is 9. When I combine these together, I get 4x squared plus 12x plus 9. Let's see if we can apply that with the new multiply the first and the last together and then double it. So the first thing we have is 3x and it's squared. 3 times 3 is 9, and x times x is x squared. The second guy, I have 3x times negative 4, and I'm going to double it. 3 times negative 4 is a negative 12, but we have to double it, so that's negative 24. And negative 4 squared, negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. Okay, one more time box method so that you guys, those of you guys who were absent, can see how to do that. So we got 3x and we got negative 4. 3x and negative 4. 3x times 3x is 9x squared. 3x times negative 4 is negative 12x. 3x times negative 4 is negative 12x. And negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. What a whirlwind this is. That's why we have the 9x squared. Combine our negative 12x and negative 12x to get negative 24x. And our 16 rounds off our problem. So our first one is x squared minus 9 because it's that first term squared minus the second term squared. This next one is n squared minus 6 times 6 is 36. So our middle terms cancel out. So we can go ahead and cut to the chase on these problems. When we look here, if I take my first term and square it, x squared squared. So x to the second power raised to another second power is x to the 4th. And then 8 times 8 is 64. So just put the minus in between. Okay, you guys, please note this typo. Get a square on that. Otherwise, we have a whole new different problem than the ones we're looking at. Okay, so if we had 2x squared plus 5 times 2x squared minus 5, identical opposites. we're going to go 2x squared, but we're going to square it. 2 squared is 4. X squared to the square. And it's going to be minus 25.